audience, and on behalf of GCPIT India and Africa, I extend a warm welcome to our panelists for this session, Mr. Abhinav Gupta, Dr. Babatunde Obrima, Mr. Octavio Padella, Ms. Lucy Gasmararian, and Mr. Vonia Evans. And this panel on fintech ecosystem in 2020 and the predicted trends of 2021 will be moderated by Mr. Miguel Marin Orozco. He's the founder of XR Mexico community, and he's an immersive technology specialist with extensive experience in the creation of new business and projects focused on digital transformation, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. He is passionate about startups, social entrepreneurship, government projects, and private initiative. He's also an open and agile smart cities advisor for the Mexican chapter, an IT advisor and member of the Chamber of Commerce for Jalisco, Mexico. So with that, over to you, Mr. Mike. The session is all yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hope you are joining this Global Technology Summit 2020. And many thanks to the organizers for this invitation. I'm glad to be here from Mexico. Saludos a todos. So let's get in. This year has certainly been a turbulent one, but fintechs have stepped up to the mark, driving the delivery of special initiatives for consumers, communities, small and medium enterprises, charities, self-employed, and many underserved. Despite this, during the 2020 pandemic, we saw partnerships between fintechs and government organizations to assist with the distribution of pandemic relief funds and digital transformation of large financial institutions and fintechs alike. And diversity and inclusion took center stage. In this panel, the experts will share their thoughts on 2020 fintech successes, the state of investment landscape, and most importantly, their predictions for 2021. We will discuss about the institutionalization of crypto, its popularity, and the way fintech regulators are working in all the regions, and about some of the fintechization of everything. So please welcome to Tavonia Evans, Director in WebCoin, Lucy Gasmararian, Crypto and FinTech Advisor in PwC Hong Kong, Abhinav Gupta, Lead in FinTech Vertical in T-Hub Hyderabad, Dr. Babatunde Obrima, FinTech Association of Nigeria, and Octavio Padilla, a fourth Industrial Revolution thought leader. So let's get in, and we will make a round of questions, and everybody could take like 1.5 minutes. So please, let's start with Tavonia. It's been a hard year. Tell us about some challenges in the areas you work in currently during the pandemic.
Well, my name is Tavana Evans, and I'm the founder of GuapCoin. And interestingly, most of the challenges that I think that there was a leveling out of challenges for everyone. As a Black woman, as in the crypto space, bringing a crypto to primarily Black and brown people, we always had challenges. What you experience as a challenge during the pandemic is a challenge that we face every day. So you're talking about lack of funds, lack of education, lack of awareness, and lack of access. So fortunately, I would say during the pandemic, we've had an opportunity to do some catching up in some areas. And to also, because essentially there's less competition during the pandemic, and, there's less voices out there speaking of various things. And now you can hear the voices of the people a little bit clearer. So we actually saw some benefits in that area, although, there's still the financial barriers that are still there. The opportunity to at least get the message out increased during this time.
Thank you, Tavania. Lucy, please tell us about some challenges and projects that you are currently working on.
Yeah, hopefully everyone can hear me. Thank you very much for having me. I'm over here in Hong Kong. So I think 2020, from my perspective, so I'm with PwC, I'm in the crypto team, and I'm also working on the government project here, the cross-border wholesale CBDC experiment between the Hong Kong dollar and the Thai baht. So that's Project Inthenon Lion Rock. That's one of the central banks' initiatives. Obviously, they're happening all around the world, and so I'm heavily involved with that one. And really, exploring the use case of a currency that no longer needs to route via SWIFT and via the correspondent banking network. So it's peer-to-peer technology. It's driven on the Ethereum platform. It's a private network on the Ethereum blockchain. And, it's incredibly exciting that central banks are embracing this over here and looking to build sort of corridor networks and reinvent FX, if you like, and the mechanics behind cross-border trade. So that's a particular project that I'm working on. But I think in terms of a big step back in terms of 2020 from a crypto and digital currency aspect, 2020 has been the year of complete contrasts. You see in the US, the pandemic hits, suddenly people lose their jobs, they have no money, but everything's shut overnight. And, the Fed is desperately trying to get financial aid into the hands of those that need it. And that really highlighted how inefficient the payments infrastructure is, because they posted checks in the post, right? Physical checks in the post, and 1.4 billion of them went to deceased individuals. And then you contrast that with where I'm sitting in China, where the identity management of the population is just incredible already. And they're airdropping tokens in Shenzhen into digital wallets so that people can spend them in 7 days, right? So, it just highlights, right, the difference that's happening in terms of how far advanced Asia is, and China specifically, in terms of payments and digital currency. And I think for me, that really was highlighted this year.
Thank you, Lucy. Abhinav Gupta, please tell us about these challenges. How did you manage your teams? I don't know, from technical point of view, tell us about some of the challenges that are happening now.
Thank you, Mike. So I work with a lot of startups at T-Hub, which is one of the India's largest incubator, and I lead the fintech vertical here. The biggest challenge for all of our startups and all the people whom we deal with is economic slowdown. So the business or the spends of people were going down because of lockdown, because of different scenarios, right? So the average amount of spend has gone down. So you can see all the relating industries, right? When the economy is going down, averages, employment rates, everything was going down. So that was the biggest challenge for every startup whom deal with, and especially with the fintech startup. And I come from a country, the India, right? India is one of the best when it comes to digital payments and real-time interoperable payments. Still, the number of transactions by volume and value were going down during this pandemic. But the best part is like my fellow speaker said, we are rebounding, and a lot of startups and founders here had time to think about their products and user experiences. That was a fantastic thing. I think in the next quarter you will see some of the interesting products which are using tokenization or contactless payments very soon. I think that will be the real or if I can say a very new realm for digital payments and fintech at large.
Thank you, Abhinav. So, Dr. Babatunde, what challenges could have a fintech association in Nigeria? Please tell us about how was the lockdown, how was the fintech helping people there. Could you make a little story about that, please?
Okay, great. I think that, what the pandemic actually created the need and the importance for fintech adoption, and the need to have for people to adopt digital platforms for payments across board. I think it's been more of a catalyst. So what we had is a situation where a lot of people who are not on digital platforms could not do transactions. And the moment the lockdown was over, banking halls were like a marketplace. It was really, was the crowds. Everybody wanted to have an ATM card or wants to register on internet banking or want to do this. So also we also saw opportunities. I mean, government was very embarrassed. We have identity management issues in Nigeria, and for palliatives, government was distributing cash, which was, I mean, steeped in, whether you like it, there'll be corruption and what have you in it. I mean, people didn't get this money. So the need to start looking at how to speed up digitization, financial inclusion, I mean, was something that this pandemic has stirred up in Nigeria and for the association and its members.
Thank you, Dr. Babatunde. And Octavio, from your point of view as a thought leader in this fourth industrial revolution, explain us or tell us what is happening now and what were the challenges during the pandemic. Did you see a new point of view because of the pandemic from in 2021? Tell us about what is happening now.
Yes,
Okay, I
thank
think
you. Well, basically, I think this 2020 for the fintech ecosystem was very, very huge in terms of adoption. The pandemic basically what make is easier to the people to get to digital platforms instead of traditional banks or traditional institutions. But I think the main challenge here is the regulatory frame. That in Mexico, by example, we have this 2020 a new regulation, the fintech law, that allows to make a lot of things. And for 2021, we will have the open finance law that will be a game changer for all the sector. But I think the most important thing I saw this year was the rise of the digital central bank currencies in terms of digital dollar, digital euro, digital yen. So this kind of approach of the governments, of the central banks, in terms of how they look the money, it will be the game changer for the next years.
Thank you, Octavio. So this is the first round, and the second round we will talk about the institutionalization of crypto as a corporate treasury tool. Do you think, Tabonia, that this could be a new trend in the next year? Do you think that this is growing? I don't know, like a new trend. How do you see this?
Mr. Vonia, you're on mute.
So sorry. I said, absolutely. Corporations function differently than governments do, and that's they may not publish all of their sandboxes and things that they're working with publicly, and they don't have to, whereas government does. So we all know that corporations have been working on this for a number of years. Now, the corporate concern, of course, is law and, the legality of everything. Law has to catch up, just like for the individual, just like for enthusiasts or creators or developers, et cetera, in a space, especially in America. We're all kind of in limbo when it comes to legislation. And that's very important to corporate. Probably much more so to us. They're not going to take that kind of risk. So what we're seeing, of course, in 2021 with the incoming new administration, we're already seeing a flurry of submissions and talks. And I'm actually involved in a talk as well about legislation. So that part being out of the way, corporate is going to come flying through the door with this. I mean, they obviously were very concerned with the Libra hearings and et cetera, with corporate getting in this space. I mean, it's obviously very concerning. because of the implications. So again, with that out of the way, and now with more legislation coming to bring certainty, we're definitely going to see more corporate involvement. But I do honestly think that they probably will be the last, because again, they're going to have to be thoroughly sure of the liability that they're going to take on.
Thank you, Tabonia. We lost Lucy, so I will make another. Oh, she's back. Lucy, could you tell us from the PwC point of view, what do we need to do to make this reality, the institutionalization of crypto as a corporate treasury tool? Could you tell us your point of view?
Yes, can you hear me? I think I'm having major Wi-Fi issues. Apologies. Can you hear me?
Don't worry. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
Sorry, I think I lost some
went blank. If I repeat something,
connection there.
If I repeat.
Oh yeah, we were talking about the institutionalization of crypto.
Yeah. No, I think I've got it. But I didn't hear all of what Tabonia said because my Wi-Fi went in and out.
Okay,
so
I mean, if I followed your last question, I'm still having some, what's it called? Was about crypto and corporate treasury, right?
Yeah, I've got it. Okay, so I mean, this is like.
Okay,
actually,
I mean, my thought.
Dr.
I'm really confused now.
Yes, no. There's been a slight confusion due to the loss of connections. Dr. Babatunde, I think Miss Lucy is answering the question now.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Yes, Miss Lucy, please go ahead.
I'll be quick. I'll hand it over to you soon. No, so from a PwC perspective, right, as Tabonia said, there's been so much focus on the central banks. And actually now all the corporates are sort of being caught a bit unawares because they haven't necessarily been doing all these POCs and all this innovation, all this endless thought leadership, right, and looking into it. I mean, I think the questions for digital currencies generally for businesses and corporates is the fact that it's operational questions, right? So suddenly you're having to deal with digital currencies, and that's a whole new infrastructure. So maybe it has to work side by side with the existing corporate treasury management function that you've got already, but suddenly you have to have potentially new architecture, right, to handle digital currencies and think in a new way. I also think, potentially in terms of how they're designed, what is the return for the treasury, right? So it's not necessarily going to be government securities. I mean, we saw DBS Bank just announced yesterday, which was huge. They're giving corporate and institutional investors the ability to trade in crypto as well as security tokens eventually. So the whole sort of blend of what makes up your balance sheet is about to probably get a little bit more interesting, and it's certainly going to be in a different digital format. So it's going to take corporates some time to adjust to that. And I think they're just beginning to think about it now. So there's definitely a lag from the central banks.
Thank you, Lucy. Abhinav, could you tell us about these startups that you're working with? What is your approach? What kind of solutions are proposing about this institution of crypto?
I can tell you, I think when it comes to fintech and crypto in India, there is a big gap between because of the regulatory problems here. All the regulatory institutions in India have made very clear that there cannot be any cryptocurrency transactions in India. But having said that, everything is easing out, and all the startups are seeing that there will be a time very soon that there will be regulations for making cryptocurrency a real time and a mainstream currency for all the transactions. So that is one aspect of it. So that is the reason all the solutions what startups are creating here are very intrinsic in nature. That means all, like example, like corporate treasury tool is very internal to an organization, right? So all the systems or all the startups are working on that kind of a sector. But like I concur with what Lucy was saying, the cost of implementation and change management or digital transformation is very costly when you do adapt a crypto-based digital architecture in a such a small scale. So crypto works better, unit economics works better, but a very large scale. So most of the startups here are working on certain use cases, and we had a huge panel before us who was speaking about different use cases on food, on transit, on milk or other kind of use cases. I think those are the places where startups are working in India, and that is one when you consider India as geography. Second is they're trying to service other economies and geographies where crypto is a legal token there. So that is second, and third is on the regulatory framework. Regulators have started, especially our insurance regulator and our federal regulator, that is Reserve Bank of India, with their own sandboxes, which they're opening up for very small startups to come and pilot, and the regulator can learn from them and put those learnings into a legal way, so that many more startups can benefit, and at the end of it, the whole economy can benefit.
Thank you, Avina. Dr. Baba Tunde, tell us what is happening now about this institutionalization of crypto in the fintech acquisition in Nigeria. Do you have a roadmap to implement this? What is happening there?
Okay, so in Nigeria, the Securities and Exchange Commission has recognized crypto as digital assets and has come up with regulations to guide the operations of trading with cryptocurrencies. The central bank has yet to recognize it as a currency. So for Nigeria, it's strictly a digital asset. And I think that it creates opportunities for corporate treasuries. Today, the government treasury bills is at 0.15%. Banks pay just about 1% on fixed deposits. So I think that it creates new opportunities for corporate treasurers to look for other sources of generating income. So I think that in 2021, we're likely to see a really big explosion in terms of trading in cryptocurrencies as digital assets in Nigeria.
Thank you, Dr. Tunde. And Octavio, to close this round, tell us what needs to happen to make it reality in this 2020 around the globe. You know.
Well, it's a huge challenge. I think the most important thing here is to see how different approaches has the governments in each part of the country in terms of these new digital currencies. And I think there's a huge risk that we must consider in terms of what happened when a country has a good legislation and adoption in this kind of new money, because we can see two risks here. One is the big tech companies making their own money. So in the case of Facebook, in the case of Google, it could be really dangerous for all the economies in the world. And in other part, what it's happening in India, where this kind of cryptocurrencies are forbidden, it has a very dangerous effect, because they can lack in terms of competitivity with other countries or with other sectors. So I think we need to try to make more massive regulation in terms of adoption to try to make this a real opportunity for all the people,
Thank you, Octavio. Yeah, this is all matters about the the regulators. I mean, and this is the next round of questions. So I will ask to all panelists about how are collaborating with their projects, the fintech regulators. Each region have different approaches, different regulations. So I want to ask you, everyone, if there is harmony or threats with the projects that you're working on with the regulators. So how did you feel about this, Vanya? What is happening there?
Well, I think that I've been working with working in some projects that are dealing with making Congress aware and regulators aware, lawmakers aware of the whole spectrum of the digital currency community, because up until 2017, 2018, a lot of lawmakers didn't even know we existed. They thought that this was a Silicon Valley thing. This was a white male thing. So they didn't have any idea that we were even involved in the space. So we've been doing a lot of work, just opening up that door and letting them know that, yes, we are part of this as well. And this is not just a Silicon Valley thing at all. Far from it. So educating the lawmakers has been a big part of what we're doing, and they've been very receptive to it, very open to it, and even more so. We have a slew of talks scheduled for 2021, including in March, and some coming up post inauguration. So I'm very excited about this new administration and what it's going to mean for crypto in America. Again, this new administration is already all virtual. You know what I mean? So they've done so much digital work than they've ever done before. So stepping into the digital money space is not going to be a far stretch for them now. So again, we're very excited about the opportunities, and we're very engaged, because our lawmakers only can work, effectively if the people are engaged in the lawmaking process. So the crypto people, the people in the digital currency space, like myself and other leaders, we're actively engaged in the lawmaking process. So we are going to be the ones to determine what the laws are going to look like in 2021 and beyond. So I'm very excited. There's definitely a lot of movement in that area.
Thank you, Tabonia. And Lucy, you make advisory for companies about crypto and about the regulators. Tell us which is the approach and how are collaborating in the regions that you're working now. Are they in harmony, or are they feeling threats with the projects about this fintech new era?
Are you talking to me again? Oh, I'm sorry. Who did? Oh, Lucy. Okay.
Lucy, I think you're in mute. No, we cannot hear you. Uh, Maybe we could make the next panelist.
Yes, Mike, I think you can go to the next panelist, and meanwhile, we can see if we can get Miss Lucy back. Yeah.
Yeah. Please, Avina, this is the same question.
Yes. So in India, especially, in this context, the regulator has been wonderful for the fintech ecosystem. So I will say because we are in a democratic framework, and plus you have to deal with such vast amount of skill people, like the 1.2 billion people here, day in day out, with different demographics. So think about the variation which a regulator has to deal with in terms of financial literacy or in terms of technological advancement. Taking that into context, regulator has done a phenomenal job, and they have opened up. So there are two ways to deal with these startups, or a fintech, right? So one is to open up railroads for doing innovation in fintech, and second, indirectly, and second is to directly deal with them for future looking products. And here regulator have been doing both. One, he has created the regulator has created one amazing railroads like UPI. There are open data stacks which are available with government. So this has opened up vast opportunities, and a lot of fintech innovation is happening in India. And best of the best unicorns are from the fintech. I think it's open to everyone to see the list, right? And apart from that, when it comes to direct interaction, they are not they're not as open as any other regulator, but still they are trying to open up sandboxes. They're opening or setting up few committees with startups and startup influencers and fintech influencers to listen more and create more regulations so that absorption of fintech innovation can be at the highest. So if I want to rate my regulator out of 5, I would rate 4.5. And ideally, personally, if you ask me, there has to be no regulation for fintech innovation. As low regulations as possible, the innovation will be as high. But I understand there has to be fine line between, if they can create a scope, and below that line, if there can be no regulation, that would be an awesome place to work for any startup or a fintech person. So these are my views.
Thank you, thank you. Do we have Lucy back?
I'll try one more time. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, I'm really sorry, guys. This is really challenging. It puts so much pressure on what I have to say. No, so what I want to say about regulators, yes. So I've been in the space 3 years, and it's just transformed, right, in terms of the way the regulators are approaching this. And 3 years ago, one or two regulators, like Crypto Mom and Hester Pierce in the US, and a couple of them would really stick their neck out and say, look, there's more to this technology than money laundering and Bitcoin, right? This is spawning a whole new generation of just incredible innovation. And that voice was really hard to be heard, right? And 3 years, fast forward to where we are today, and only 5% of regulators around the world do not have a dedicated crypto asset team in the regulator. So it has become completely established that you have to look at crypto. And I mean, now we all sort of take it for granted, but even, 18 months ago, that's surprising, right? So I think we've come a long way really fast. I think a lot of it's been driven by central banks. I think they were really early to this game. They were so quick to react to Bitcoin, and we really underestimate the central banks. Suddenly you've got a far more efficient currency, right, in the terms of the way you transfer value and money around the world. And naturally, a central bank is going to sit up and go, wow, I can manage my money supply so much more efficiently.
Oh, sorry, we lost it.
But I do. So I think it's now. I think it's now a very interesting relationship. I think, as Tavonia said, the regulators want to work with us, and it's actually a really exciting time because we're now really getting into the detail and really sort of what is the best solution to make it a better world and make everything, our payments infrastructure, so much more effective and efficient, and do the right thing. So it's no longer a battle. It's actually just getting down to work, really.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Babatunde, which is the approach from the FinTech Association in Nigeria about this work with the regulators? How is it working now?
Okay, so basically for us, the approach is this: a financial system is as stable as the regulations that govern it. However, regulation must be progressive, must support innovation and creativity. So with that approach, we work with regulators to ensure that regulations that are coming out operators are carried along. So early this year, we started a forum called the Regulator Forum. Regu for regulators, Vator for innovators, where we can bring everybody to the table. So we have representatives of all regulatory agencies in the country in that forum at director levels and innovators, and we can share ideas. We think that, being able to come to the table, willing to discuss, and now things don't go out to public without them being shared with us as an association. I said, let's have your members' inputs in it. And I think it's a good development. That actually was the transition to having SEC coming up with regulations for the crypto digital assets and for crowdfunding. So we're beginning to see a lot of collaboration, if I will put it that way, with regulators. It's a good development, and we think that it will only get better.
Thank you, Dr. So, Octavio, about these regulators that are currently working in Mexico, and also I want to ask you about the Latin American scenario. Who do you see this way in working or collaborating with the fintechs? How are the fintech regulators working? Are they feeling threats, or are they working in harmony now?
Well, it's a different perspective from each country. I think what Mexico do in terms of regulation, that basically we try to adopt the same sandbox figure that used in the UK several years ago, and that was a big success for Mexico. But we can see different approaches. By example, we have very good adoptions in Colombia. We can see, of course, Brazil, of course, Argentina, but we see a lot of other countries that are completely behind. By example, Peru, by example, Chile. They have strong regulations, and they have a very narrow perspective for innovation. So I think it will be a very huge problem for the region in terms of adoption. Every regulator works with their own rules. So I think it's a mistake. We need to start work together in terms of the regional adoption for these new technologies.
Thank you, Octavio. And also we have a last question for this panel, and then we will make a Q&A. So in this new scenario, by now to 2021, and the new perspective that the world has changed, we are talking about and we are learning in a lot of papers about the fintechization of everything, and the increase in the popularity of crypto as an important payment trend. So please, this is like a more free question, but I want to know and want to that you tell us from your perspective, what are the new trends for this new year about these new payment ways in fintech. So please, Tavonia, what are your predictions for 2021? You are in mute. I think you're mute.
Well, definitely decentralized finance is going to continue to grow. That's a beast that cannot be stopped. So we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see a lot more of merchant adoption, because we now have PayPal coming into the space, and PayPal is about to open that up pretty wide open coming into the first quarter. So that's going to open up the way for the many merchants that are using these platforms to begin the adoption of cryptocurrency and accepting various currencies out there. So that's a huge one. Of course, the continued institutionalizing of Bitcoin. I think that's probably the biggest one. Bitcoin is definitely, in my opinion, separating from a lot. Well, not Bitcoin, but just the views towards Bitcoin is separating from the traditional mission of Bitcoin and becoming more of a institutional asset and more of a inching ever so closely to Wall Street, which we're going to also see again. I think we're going to see more of an altcoin playing field, because again, Bitcoin moving away from its core values is definitely going to turn a lot of people away from that market and on to other coins that may identify with their missions and identify with them more on a personal basis. The gap is growing. So that gap has to be addressed. And I think that gap is going to be addressed by alternative financial products, alternative fintech solutions, and alternative financing. So I think we'll see a growth in that as well. So again, Bitcoin, institution, altcoins, the people. I've written about this recently, and that's what I see. I can't hear anybody. Are you on mute? I think, yeah.
Lucy, what are your predictions for 2021? I think you're on mute again.
Mute.
Yes, you're on mute.
We can't hear her because of some connectivity issue, I think.
Okay, well, let's make another panelist, and then we will return to Lucy. Please, Abhinav, what are your predictions?
My predictions for 2021, I believe, like you said, fintechization of all things, right? I believe that to happen, and we'll be taking one more step ahead. So the concept of embedded finance is very, very evident, and because fintech is not a vertical anymore, it's a horizontal for us, because everywhere there is a business transaction happening, and there will be fintech for sure. And two important things what I see here is, one, tokenization is one important sector, or one important approach which most of the fintechs will take, and second is the rise of open banking. And there are regulations, and there are many different players working on this sector. So now, instead of and we have already seen in India that biggest fintech companies are not the traditional banks, but Amazon and Google. And that is an interesting trend to see, like how tech giants are coming in using their open banking concepts and approaches to serve customers better. And I think fintechization, nobody can, if I can say, can insulate themselves from this. And of course, I'm pretty sure that decentralized finance will play a big, important role in embedded finance. And that's it from my side. I'm very optimistic about fintech being ubiquitous.
Thank you, Abhinav. And please, Lucy, are you back?
I don't think so. Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's so weird. I don't know why. Obviously, I'm meant to be the third speaker. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I think I definitely agree with what Tavonia said. I think what I would add, I think you might find that 2021 is finally the year of security tokens. That was the space that we were all most excited about, or I was certainly very excited about as an ex-banker. And it's taken way longer than we all imagined to get liquidity, for it to really sort of take off as a concept in this whole sort of token economy and tokenization. And the move by Singapore DBS Bank yesterday. So finally, we've got the most well-respected bank coming in and offering the full suite of security token offerings, is going to start that finally trigger SMEs to be able to raise capital in a much more cost-efficient way and to a wider pool of investors. Not initially, because initially it's only for institutional and high net worth. But we're testing out sort of understanding that you can invest in tokens as financial securities, and therefore all the innovation and the tokenization of everything, whether it's NFTs and non-fungible tokens and tokenizing art and real estate and vintage cars and all these things we're talking about. Let's see if it finally happens. I think if it's going to happen, 2021 is going to be the year of the use cases and the first tokens.
Thank you, Lucy. And Dr. Babatunde, what are your predictions for 2021 about these topics?
Okay, great. I mean, for us, I mean, I'm going to look at, I mean, Nigeria as a case. I think that we're talking about fintechization of everything. I mean, I expect to see a lot of activities within the insurtech space, within the agri-tech space. And of course, whether we all like it or not, I mean, the issue of digital currencies is something that we likely to see activity. Now, the African Union is going to be starting its African Free Trade Zone agreement from January. Issue of cross-border payments, I think digital currencies will probably be the best solution to solving cross-border payments. So I think that those are areas where we're likely to see quite a lot of activities in 2021. Of course, payments will always be there because payment is foundational. You can't do anything without payment. Either you're in insurtech, agri-tech, what's because you still have to have a payment platform for which you can get your transaction completed. So I think that those are areas where we're going to see a lot of activities, a lot of creativity coming into place.
Well, thank you, Doctor. And this is the same question for you, Octavio, but I want to add something else. Do you see that this is the start of the big reset? You know, you can answer first about the question of the new trends that you think that is going to happen next year. But do you see that this pandemic is the start of the new the great reset that some people is pushing. So please tell us about.
Yes, with no doubt. I think the Great Reset, that is the proposition that has the World Economic Forum for this new decade. It will begin with these new technologies in all areas of human life. You know, not only in fintech, in health tech, and well, basically everything will be tech for the next years. I think this the trend for the 2021 will be.
Oh, we have problems in the connection.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so the second one I think will be the tokenizations of assets, and the third one will be the open finance and open data ecosystem that will bring much more opportunities for everybody in terms of international trade and in terms of payments, etc. So it will be a huge reset to me.
Yeah, thank you. Well, for this is the last question of the panel, but I don't know if there are questions in the room.
Mike, since we are running out of time, I think we should conclude. Yeah.
Well, then thank you to you organizers for this initiative and for this invitation. So let's conclude this panel. And thank you to all panelists, and all your approaches are very important to understand what is going to happen the next year. So thank you very much again, and see you soon.
So thank you, Mike. That was a hard stop. So yes, once again on behalf of GCPIT, I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Abhinav, Dr. Babatunde, Mr. Octavio, Ms. Lucy, and Mr. Warnier for joining us as panelists, and of course, Mr. Miguel for the great moderation. Thank you all for being with us. And I think we covered quite some ground because you all were very strict with the time, and you all kept it within 1.5 minutes. So thank you so much for that. And I hope to see you all again in the future sessions. Thank you for joining in.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. So the audience will take another short break, and we're going to come back with a great lineup of innovative startup stories. So stories is something we're all been familiar with, and we're always interested with since when we were little. So we're going to have a lineup of innovative startup stories. So stay with us. We're going to come back after a short break.